p.m. Eastern Time, 7 days a week. I am so thrilled and gratified by how we're growing, who's joining us, how much support and help people are receiving every day, and how many of you are here every day. I'd say 70 to 80%. And what's so cool is I've been looking at LinkedIn statistics, and 80% of the people, 82% of people on LinkedIn are between 18 and 34. 80+% who comment and like and support this show are above 40, right? So we're getting the majority of the people who are still aligned with old school, relationship building, respect, all the qualities that really aren't always there for you in the mob that there is. Jenny Maxwell is here, one of our favorites. Whenever she's here, she brightens up the place, and that's true. And we're here to address any questions you might have, opportunities, triumphs you want to share, because the key is everybody leaves here with more than they started with. Take some takeaways, which is make some connections, relate to people's conversations, and take initiative, be proactive. You don't want to be in the LinkedIn witness protection plan, right? where no one knows you and no one sees you. And that was so cool because we had Rhonda Shear who brought that up yesterday. And the beauty of people who come here and bring things is it continues to circulate after them. So you have direct benefit and then you have residual benefit. But with that, Jenny, share a little bit what's new and exciting. And I know prior to the call, we talked about the challenge of being a people pleaser, and maybe we'll start with that. So what's your thoughts, Jenny?
Well, I was sharing with you, first of all, thanks for having me back on. It's always such a pleasure to be with you and speak with you. We were chatting about people pleasing because I have a trip coming up soon and I'm going home to see my family. And we were sharing how, sometimes other people's expectations of you've got to set like a healthy boundary, because you can tend to put everybody else's needs before your own. And the long and the short of it is here, most of the time you cannot, appease everybody. You can't satisfy everybody's needs. When you're being everybody's person, it can be super stressful. And that's typically what happens to me. Like before I go back home to see everybody, I'm usually starting to feel like that stress of, oh my gosh, like I hope I don't let people down because I'm just one person and everybody is scattered all over the place. And I won't have a car, so I'm just going to be trying to do my best and I'm going to use my head. My father-in-law told me a few years ago, Jenny, just have everybody come to you. Like pick a day and have everybody come to you. So I'm going to go for that this year, Don, and see how that goes. See how it goes. Yeah. So people pleasing is a big problem, and I read this amazing quote today. I'd love to know what you think of it. Never allow someone be your priority while allowing yourself to be their option.
Oh, that is so cool. And, everything we talk about makes you think and maybe reflect and get an understanding of how you ever adopted certain ways of doing things or certain thoughts that may not be serving you anymore, and make a redirection of action, thoughts, individuals, really look at your board of directors or your immediate support family and say, what can I do better? Not only with what can I do better with myself, but what I surround myself with. Right? You want to be the peg in the round hole. What's your thoughts, Jenny?
A lot of it has to comes down to communication. Often the root cause of conflict, even in your household, isn't what is being said. It's what isn't being said, because we operate on assumptions. Right? We think we know what somebody means when they say something, or we make it mean something about us if somebody reacts a certain way. And instead of communicating and asking questions, what did you mean by that? Or in what way does that bother you? Asking like those clarifying, specifying questions, we can't really uncover what's the root source of the argument or the upset. We tend to avoid it and assume that it means something that it likely doesn't. And that causes huge conflict, you know. That's my 2 cents.
No, I think it's great 2 cents. I see we're getting comments on the post, but it's not showing up here. So I'm going to refresh. If I leave, I'll be right back. See if that'll help.
Oh, you're on the other side of my screen now.
Yeah, I don't know how
That's exciting.
But we do
have bilocated.
Yeah, you know, and I'm sure if I did something, it'll do something else. I mean, this
yeah,
is
maybe I'll be upside down in a minute or something. We're mixing it up today.
Might even be a different hat on. You never know.
Could be a whole different person.
I may end up being an emoji. But but I do have people. So let me, until I figure out how chat is going to work, let me just read the people. Brandy Ann Roberts is here. Good morning, friends. Alex is here. Good morning, Don and Jenny. Christy Howard says, clap Carrie. Samantha Sierra, who is a lovely individual. And, you know, when I'm sharing this, these are opportunities to connect with people and build with people. So Samantha Sierra, hi, guys. Anne Marie Ristow is here, a wonderful lady. I had a chance to talk to her a little bit over a week ago, and she is working on some fabulous things, and we're going to get her on the air. So thank you so much, Anne Marie, for coming today. Dean LeBay is here. He's an everydayer. Thanks, Dean. Christy Howard says, hello, beautiful people. Carrie Chasen says, hello, Christy. Chastity Alexander is here, who's a good friend of Gretchen. And that's what we have so far. So, you know, let me see if chat overlay works. No, reload, it says. Okay.
Isn't it interesting, the challenges that we face when it comes to technology, and just when we think everything is going according to plan?
Yeah, I mean, it's so, you know, weird. But let me ask you this, Jenny. So what are you seeing out there? How are things evolving, you know, in relationship to, you know, how you're building on LinkedIn or growing relationships or changing direction?
Well, I've shared this week that, like, I've had my own challenges with LinkedIn, and I've noticed that lots of other people are as well. I did a post about it earlier this week on Monday about how I no longer recognize a single person in my feed. So I don't know what's changed, but when I get on my feed, everybody on there is somebody new. And I've got to go and search for connections.
Got your back.
Did you lose me?
No, I put you on the right.
Ah, here I am again. I feel like I'm on tour.
Yeah, well, Samantha said, if you want to go back on the left, click your picture and drag and drop. So we are getting assistance. But go ahead, Jenny. Didn't want to disturb you. But I'm going to log off, log back in. That might help chat. So keep sharing what your thought is.
Just talking what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So there's been, well, I think a lot of people are experiencing, you know, low reach and low engagement, and their posts aren't doing as well as they used to do. And I'm getting a lot of DMs and people reaching out to me, really feeling like this is something potentially that they're doing wrong, or they're feeling like, you know, they're failing on some level, and it's causing a great amount of stress. And I think we're like chasing this algorithm, and it's not within our control. So what I would love to share is, like, notice what it does to your energy when you're kind of at war with yourself here. When you're looking at the metrics and you're like, oh my God, my post isn't getting the same reach, and I don't know anybody in my feed, and I don't know what I'm doing wrong. If this is stress building in you, then it's no longer serving you. So look to what you can control instead. So one of the things I mentioned in my post on Monday was a simple little phrase called "but luckily." So I could have approached this whole thing with the algorithm and let it feed into my stress levels and totally get in the way of proper progress. But instead, I chose to look at it differently and kind of put a positive spin on it in a couple of different ways. Number one, I don't recognize anybody in my feed, but luckily I have a great number of super connections that I know I can reach out to and search so that I can comment and engage on their posts. Another one is, I don't know what's going on with the algorithm, but luckily it's not something that's within my control. So I'll put my energy into something else, right?
Oh,
so
for sure.
Using those little like tweaks in your mindset are more empowering than like sitting in the upset of something that's not in your control. And it's far greater. It's a far greater use of your time and your energy, because I really do think I've had countless messages of people coming in saying, this just isn't working for me. I'm thinking about giving up. I'm thinking about giving up on LinkedIn. I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm like, hold on, slow your roll. And we've talked about this before. If LinkedIn is not your actual job, then focus on your actual job. The algorithm will, settle itself at some point. There's likely changes happening that are not within our control. So let's refocus our energy towards something good and something positive and keep driving forward towards our goal. So LinkedIn had become my job before Christmas. I felt like I was so devoted to it. I was just on it all the time and posting, I've got to post 2 and 3 times a day, and otherwise I'm not going to show up in people's feed. I'm like, my job is actually a coach. That's my job. And a mother. They're my 2 jobs, my two jobs. LinkedIn is not my job. This is a bonus somewhere, a platform that I can share what I do, who I am, and who I serve. But it is not my job. So it doesn't deserve the same level of stress and energy that I could put into something good. Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes perfect sense. And, if you take care of yourself first and you do a good enough job, you've got a lot you can offer everybody else around you, right? Because if people look towards you or for you, they want to continue to root for you, right? The better you do for yourself, the better you do for people around you. And in turn, what you learn, you could share with someone easier than what it took you to learn it. And I think that's where like old school and wisdom and patience that comes with older age has such a benefit to people who either think they know it all or can do it all, and everything leads to collaboration ultimately, because you're always better off with more than less. You're better off with knowledge share, ideas, like your perspective on doing what's best for you. Because if LinkedIn is a long game, and I think that's the first expectation people should have, is I'm not going to turn this upside down, but you can diminish the time it takes you for your learning curve if you get with people who are already doing best practices, can show you. And that's the best way to believe in somebody, is show me what you do and show me what you get. There's no reason to say one day something will happen, because until it does, it doesn't. And people want to know, what can I do today to help myself? And the best way is to take small steps, get a little more comfortable, get a little more confident, and slowly redirect time and attention where it's deserving. But you don't crash into something and in 10 minutes decide, hey, this isn't what I want, and go look for the next shining object. And get with people you can trust, that you can believe in. They're going to give you the straight story on stuff. And also will help you out, because sharing something that you know so well takes so little time or anything else. And, if you're expecting something, you should now be providing that something, right? While you're waiting for yours and you got somebody else's order up, you should be making sure they get it while it's hot, and enjoy the meal, because that's the difference between, do people do more on LinkedIn or not? It's really because of who they're with. If you're with friends having a good time, it's not work,
Yeah, and that's okay too, right? Some people are not on LinkedIn for work at all. It is their social media platform. It's where they come to say hi, and that's perfectly fine. So then whatever they're coming for, is not stressful to them, because it's not like, you know, their life isn't riding on it. Like the business isn't relying on this platform. But, you know, I would love to go back to what you said a moment ago about, you know, working with somebody who can help you, working with somebody who has already been through it. But you've got to come from a place and perspective of, you know, I might learn something here. So I need to set aside my own need to be right and in charge and the loudest voice in the room. I've got to come with a willingness that, you know, there might be another way of doing this. So I'm working with this kid at the moment. He's 19. He's like the poster child for coaching. I was so like impressed with how at 19 years of age, he's like, I think I need to level up. I'm not confident in how I speak, and I'm not confident in myself. He chose not to take the college path, and he was kind of feeling a little less than as a result. And we're a few sessions in, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if they could teach this in school, like what he's applying to his life right now, like that, slowing it down, hitting the pause button, noticing how things make you feel, tapping into your personal power and deciding, you know, how I want to show up today, whether I'm going to move, you know, what I might be interested in creatively. It's just, it's expansive thinking. And it's so impressive that he's not coming in like guns blazing at 19 thinking he knows everything. Because I mean, the truth is nobody knows everything. I don't know everything. I learn from you every time we speak. And then I share what I've learned with you, and we grow together. As you say, it's better together, and collaboration is way more powerful than trying to figure something out on your own just because you think you know it all, or you think you should know it all, or you think you're right about everything. There's always an adjustment. There's always a different way of looking at something. Sometimes it'll work. Sometimes, you know, it won't work. But regardless, you're going to learn something new that you can apply to another thing at some point.
I think
that's like a ramble. I was like rambling on there for a couple of minutes.
I really do, you know, hear what you're saying. And I learned so much from you and every guest every day, 7 days a week for 7 months, that it's not only what you say, it's also confirmation. Not everybody needs to change anything. People need to know that someone says, hey, you're great at painting. You should keep it up. That just confirms it isn't like you should be painting this way or that way, or here's how you make more money doing it. You know, people take something they don't understand and they make it even more confusing for other people, you know, because they feel obligated to chirp in.
Oh, and yeah, I know. I had to ask somebody on it. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that was so, I was so curious about this comment on a post a couple of days ago. And it was like a very poetic comment from a person I don't know, but I didn't understand it. I didn't really understand it. So I went back and I asked another question, but it was out of appreciation. And then I got another very convoluted, very poetic comment. And I thought, okay. So I went and asked again, if there is some way for you to simplify this very poetic and beautiful comment, I invite you to share, because it doesn't have to be tricky and convoluted. It can be simple, because otherwise you're just catering to like your own needs. I'm like, I know you're clearly a very good writer, but I don't understand you. And the truth is probably lots of people don't understand you. Is there a way you can explain it simply? But I did not hear back.
Well,
you know, we're not.
That's a great approach, because it's always better to take responsibility first, right? And say, you know, I don't understand it. Can you explain it? There's so many times people say things to you that takes you by surprise, good and bad, that we've talked about this in the past, that you react instead of respond. You just have a knee-jerk reaction that as soon as someone says that, you either get defensive or you get nervous. And the best thing to do is ask the question. You know, why did you say that? What were you intending for me to get from that? And put the ball back in their court.
Yeah, what exactly did you mean by that?
Yeah, because I don't want to walk away thinking, I don't know what I'm thinking here. You know, you've got to clear it up for me, you know, and if you do it in a respectful way.
Yeah.
Right? because asking in a
Yeah.
bad way is just as bad as being bad with, anybody who says something nice and then says, but forget about everything before the
Yeah.
but, right? If someone
I'm
says,
sorry, but that's my
yeah,
favorite.
or
I'm sorry, but
except for, or but when you did this, or I mean, whatever it is, your time is valuable or should be.
Mhm.
Other people's time is valuable and should be. And when you respect everybody's time and you go towards something or somebody with a result in mind, I mean, when I'm going over this person's house, what am I hoping to achieve? I mean, what's my maximum expectation?
Mhm.
Will I make them smarter, feel better, make them laugh, bring them some food? I mean, what is this event about? And if
Yeah.
everybody comes to an event with nothing in their hands, with no idea, all of a sudden you're talking about the past again, right? Instead of the present or the future. And I think you got to make your day as happy for yourself as you can. You got to plan your happiness. You got to invest in your
Mhm.
happiness. It's not the default position. Let's say
It's
that.
not, yeah. And I think people get tripped up a little bit when it comes to this. And I'll hear clients say to me, I don't have time to add anything in. I'm so slammed, I don't have time to add anything. And I'm like, if you're adding something that is joyful to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or replacing it with something that's causing you stress. Now, where this might be tricky for some people to imagine is, well, my job is so stressful, I can't replace anything in there. All right, so here I challenge you then. At some point in your day, after your job, treat yourself to something that nourishes you. And I'm not talking about just food. I'm talking about like meditation, a walk, a nice meal that fuels you, a conversation with a great friend, something that brings you joy to balance out the stress of whatever is getting you down in the day. So yeah, you're right. You get to choose whether you add in something joyful in your day or stay in the same rut of, I'm so stressed out, I have too much to do, I'm so unhappy, it's everybody else's fault. You can actually take responsibility for seeking out moments in the day and creating like a list of your top relaxers. You know what your stressors are. I'm stressed out at home or I'm stressed out at work. You know what your stressors are. Well, what are your top 3 relaxers, for an example? Make a little list.
Mm-hmm.
What can you go to? How can you add that into your day in some way? And it's usually something really simple. Like for me, I know if I'm in a funk, it's music. I have a playlist of songs. I can pick any one of those depending on whatever mood I'm in. And I know it's going to lift me, a simple song. That's a simple action. I can listen to it in the car. I can listen to it in my headphones if I choose to go on a walk. I don't always do that. I like to listen to nature, but there are ways in which you can add in relaxers to your day by attaching joy.
That's perfect. And, I was kind of thinking when you were talking, is find something you don't acknowledge that is there and give it some attention. It could be something as simple as a bird,
I
right? I
know.
mean, where I'm
Yeah.
living, there's all these wonderful golden hawks and red-tailed hawks, and you see them flying around, and you're just amazed at them. They're always there. They're always flying, and you always see them, but do you really see them? When I was eating my oatmeal this morning, I just happened to look at the blueberry, that I put in there. And I thought to myself, what was the trip and journey this blueberry took to get to my goal? Right?
And look what you gifted yourself there was a whole experience.
Yeah, I
And
mean,
it was so simple.
yeah, and I thought about the farmer who grew it. I thought about the people who picked it, the trucker who shipped it, the people in the warehouse that sent it to the store, the people in the store. And all I had to do is go pick it up. I mean, you had to pay for it, but I couldn't grow that blueberry for all the anything in the world. But I knock them down like they're just raindrops instead of real. And you see people, and what you see is what it is. And it doesn't matter how you see it. So if you see goodness where no one else sees it, that's a benefit, right? If you see someone in a way that no one else sees them, but it's true, Sincerity and authenticity is key. But, we talked about yesterday, Rhonda was on, and she says she has a plan 10 by 10, which is compliment 10 people by 10 o'clock in the morning. Right. And every day she reaches out and does something in a way that is uplifting or confirming or something. And to your point, whether you make a list, whether you do something every day, if it becomes part of you, right? It's not work, it's not play, it's just what you do and the way you do it. And then the other thing is everybody has the benefit of style. Maybe it's the same thing, but done with a different touch, with a different manner of presenting. Find out what makes you unique. Find out what you're passionate about. Find out what really makes you feel great. And that's what you should be doing. Now, go ahead, Jenny.
What happens here is an added step to this is do so, but don't compare yourself to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you think you should be doing X, Y, and Z, or should be wearing this, or should be eating that, or should be going to this class, or should be, hanging out with these people, then you're not really looking inwards and asking yourself, what do I want to be experiencing? Just because Annie down the road does Pilates 6 days a week. Well, I don't like Pilates, so what would I like instead? So, comparison is the thief of joy. We've all heard this countless times, and it's true. So start looking inward and pay attention to what it is that you like. Start noticing how things make you feel, whether it's food, movement, nature, a friend that calls you that totally drains you. Like if you're picking up the phone and you're like, oh gosh, here comes this person. I know I'm going to need a nap afterwards. Don't be afraid to say no. Notice how it makes you feel. Do I have the energy for this today? If the answer is no, say no. No just means not yet. You'll call them back another day when you're less stressed out or you have more time. It's funny that you mention about the birds, because we live right by the woods and we have coyotes like every night. Like they're so loud, Don. They're right at our tree line. So we can't let the dogs out when it starts to get dark, because as soon as it's dusk, we can hear them. But it is, although it's a really haunting sound, it is so beautiful as well. So paying attention to the birds, paying attention to your blueberry in your oatmeal in the morning or whatever you're eating, paying attention to the sounds around you, paying attention to silence. Add in and ask yourself, how do I feel from this place? Do I feel stressed or do I feel calm? If you're at work and you've had a nasty phone call with someone, or an interaction that feels not like it you would like it to have gone or whatever, ask yourself, how am I feeling in this moment? And if it's something negative, what would I like instead? And when you think about what I would like instead, if you want to go from stress to calm, invite yourself to be curious. How can I get there? What's it going to take for me to experience calm? Well, maybe I'll go and do some deep breathing outside for 2 minutes, or maybe I'll take myself off to the bathroom and play on my phone and just de-stress for a minute, whatever it's going to take. Notice how it makes you feel.
Well, I think that comes with scheduling reflection time. Someone who's overwhelmed and can't think, they're not going to be talking about a blueberry. They'll be thinking I'm wasting my time, but they're not, because it's really centering yourself. And to your point, when you decide I don't feel like talking with someone, or I don't want to talk with someone, you're doing them a favor, because you're saving them from the you that they could see today versus the better you they'll see another day. So it's almost like I'm not right for the person. It's not just I'm not right for me. I'm not right for anything. And then you can say, well, now I know what I need to do. I need to get right. And to me, usually it's just walking, so I don't like sitting down, and I don't really like sitting down any more than I have to. And with what I'm doing, you're doing a lot of sitting.
Yeah.
So when things get busy, if it's a beautiful day, I got a couple parks within a couple hundred yards. I just walk over the hill, and the parks are there, the animals are there, the birds, the fountains. And it's just like, why wouldn't I want to be among this? Because I always feel better when I'm with nature versus when I'm just with myself. I'm too much company sometimes.
Your thoughts, you so much going on in your head because you're such a creative person. But you know, something that you mentioned a minute ago about scheduling reflection time, that's very challenging for people if they don't see the benefit in it. So something that might be very useful, this is what I usually start with, you know, with clients that I'm starting, like in the beginning of any program or any experience that we're going to have together, I ask them about, like, you know, let's have a look at the benefits of even doing something at the beginning or end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
So setting yourself up for success first thing in the morning. And if that means like setting the alarm 2 minutes or 3 minutes or 5 minutes early and just like lay back in your bed and do some mindful breathing and ask yourself how you want to show up today. Well, that's reflection. It's also setting an intention for who you want to be for the day, right? And you start breathing mindfully and telling yourself, like, well, this is how I want to show up. And what's it going to take to do that? Well, I'm going to have to hit the pause button because I'm going to, you know, I'm going to be in a stressful meeting. Maybe how do I show up in that moment? Well, maybe I do my mindful breathing while I'm in the meeting and just notice how that makes me feel. On the end of the day, you do the same thing with a slight shift. Instead of getting into bed at nighttime and running through all of the things you didn't get done and beating yourself up for whatever reason, instead you apply this theory. You focus on what you did get done.
Mm-hmm.
From the very beginning of the day all the way to that point where you're in your bed. You focus on what you did get done and you become your own biggest champion. So then you're starting and ending the day with intention. It doesn't have to be sitting down like writing in a journal, because I don't do that. That's not for me. But it might work for somebody, right? So you do whatever works for you, and there's flexibility. There's no right or wrong way to do it. Your way will always be the best way for you.
I think that's perfect advice. And, you know, I do the same thing as, you know, just like people spend so much time getting their physical appearance right? Well, they'll go through their closet 10 times before they figure out just the color or whatever they want to wear that day. And they don't put enough time into preparing the inside of themselves, you know, and I start out with gratitude and I end with gratitude, you know, and my house is just filled with pictures of family, you know, and I look around, I see everybody. And to me, they're alive when I'm looking at them, you know, and I bring some of them back to me. And, you know, that's where you can get strength from where you always got strength. And you can go back to it. You know, too many people, they feel they're too strong or, you know, they don't need stuff, you know, which they really do, but they've never allowed themselves to experience it. You know, and they want to keep trying harder at something that isn't working as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's like having tires that aren't inflated very well. You'll get somewhere, but it's not the best way. And let me just run through these comments because everybody's right. If you do LinkedIn Live or any live, you're going to have to adjust to technology, to whoever's involved. And that makes it easier, because it's how you respond to things that you don't expect. But Omar Muradovich is here. Good morning, guys. He's actually going to be a host next week. He was on the show briefly last week. He's doing amazing things for kids and education. He has a Jeopardy show that he comes out of his own pocket and is looking to really take education around the world. So a wonderful gentleman, great cause. Brandy N. Roberts says, love this, going on my desk for sure. Hi, Linda. Christy says, absolutely don't worry about the likes, comments. Ambimbola, who's here every day and brought her mother on the other day, and she's from Nigeria. Happy new month to you, Donald, Jenny, and everybody here. Dean LeBay said, I never want to be the smartest person in the room. And that's so true, because it shows you have opportunity. If you think you know everything and you're at the top, you're not getting any further. and you could be going down. Linda Coleman says, oh yes, we need a place to find to reassurance or show someone different thoughts. And this allows us to grow and help someone else get answers or peace. Love finding it on LinkedIn, and then we have Anne-Marie Risto, a great quote. I am sorry I don't recall where I heard it from. Everyone you meet knows something you don't. Learn from them. Thank you so much, Anne. I mean, that's a great comment. Dean says, if you don't know, you just don't know. Christy, I'm right there with you. Music fuels my soul. And it's so easy to do. I use, and I'm saying just like Jenny, depending on my mood, sometimes if I'm really exercise, I want something, heavy kind of moving me. And sometimes you just want meditation music, or light jazz or something, and you transform. And that's the whole thing. If you allow yourself to adjust to the universe and what the world is, and let that, go with the flow, don't go against it. They always say the trend is your friend. And sometimes you are so much and so good, and you're your worst critic when it comes to celebrating and recognizing. And we talked about this before. Take some time out and schedule a celebration, even if it's just a cupcake with yourself and a candle. Right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. My son bought me a candle for Mother's Day, and it's, I think he got it on Amazon, but it was one of the funniest gifts I've ever gotten. And it says, Mom's last nerve. And then underneath it says, oh, look, it's on fire. And I never lit it. He said, how come you don't light it? I said, the day I light it, I will have lost it. I will have snapped. You don't want that candle ever being lit. But it was it was just so full of fun. And he wasn't afraid to give it to me. And I mean, I thought it was just such a good giggle. But going back to music, I have a funny story. So one of the movies that is my favorite movie, I'm the only one in the house that likes it, is Something's Got to Give. Something's Got to Give, I think it's called. It's Jack Nicholson, Diane Keaton. I love that movie, and I love the soundtrack. So I was having not a great day like a few weeks ago, and the house was kind of quiet. I just got back from walking the dogs, and I thought, you know what, I'm going to cook, and I'm going to play that soundtrack over it because it's restful to me. I just love it. And my husband comes in and he's like, what is that music? And he was being all judgy about the music. And I'm like, do you want to eat later? It's like, leave me alone with my music. If you would like to see this meal on a plate in front of you. And he's like, okay, sorry. And he kind of like backpedaled and left me alone. Now, the old version of me probably would have gotten into an argument about it. But we were able to have a little fun. And that's what creating new habits will do for you. It's like, find the fun. Stop making it mean something about you. I could have said, well, I like my music, and gotten upset and caused a big scene and been dramatic. And instead I thought, well, if you want to eat, you're going to leave me in peace to prepare this meal, or I will light this candle in the process. It all tied together really well, and I got what I wanted, which was to relax.
Well, the beauty of it is the candle was just the item, but it was the thought and the idea and everything that came with it, right? A candle is just a wax, but the thought, the intention, the delivery, the acceptance, that's all part of a memory that will go forever. And that's what the son created, was not a gift, but a cherished memory. And if you can be that to other people, and that's really the key, because you get better when you are better to other people. You learn how to enjoy their joy. When you're waiting for yours, it's nice to see someone else get theirs, and it doesn't come at your expense. And if you can just show something most people aren't expecting from you. Like, I always go to the Mario story when he found that gentleman in the supermarket who was in a bad mood, and he gave him a hug, right? Anne Marie says, find out what makes you feel great. Awesome affirmation. Then we have Ambola, who's wonderful, from Nigeria. Music is my best too when I want to relax. And then Anne Marie says, comparison is the thief of joy. Fantastic, Jenny Maxwell. And then Linda Coleman says, I can say after Guillain-Barré syndrome, changing ability of movement. So every new day has a gift with movement again. And that's so wonderful because everything is relative to where you are. You know, sometimes just the simplest of things is the most important of things to someone that, you know, would benefit. I mean, and that's the beauty of having enough, is that you can share and still have enough, and now someone else has something.
Yeah.
Right? And the more you give, the more you get. And if giving in itself is a gift back to you, right? Because you were fortunate enough to be able to have it to give. You were aware enough to say someone else's pain could have been mine, right? And you know, while I'm waiting for something, I can help somebody. So what's your thoughts, Jenny? We got all these wonderful people or sharing things. And, you know, when you come on or anybody comes on, you talk about music, 4 other people now started talking about music and what it means to them, right? So it's not just learning.
Yeah.
It's rediscovering what's already there.
Yes, it's reconnecting with your joy. That's what's missing for most people, is that they are disconnected from something that brings them joy. And they're so in the same, you know, routine, experiencing the same emotions and then getting the same results. So let's have a pattern interrupter today. And I invite anybody that's listening to grab a piece of paper and give yourself 2 minutes of your own time, right? Because we don't have time for everything, but we do have time for the most important things. So if you find yourself like binging out on food or negative self-talk or gossip or like sitting in front of the TV today, well, then that was time you could have spent on yourself that would have been better serving, you know? So get a piece of paper and write down, what do I love about my life? What do I know to be true about myself when it comes to joy? And it can be a cupcake and a cup of coffee. It can be calling a friend. It can be taking like 2 minutes to meditate. It can be getting out in nature. It can be hitting go on whatever music that you love. It can be moving your body in some way. It can be lying on the couch or lying on the bed for 10 minutes and giving yourself a 10-minute nap. That's 10 minutes of me time, you know, where you can experience calm in your day. It's choosing something, adding in something that reconnects you to whatever brings you joy. And if it's, I mean, I love quiet. I love quiet. I used to be so busy and feeling like I had to fill every single moment of the day with something. But there's like, it's like medicine. When you have a couple of moments of peace and quiet, like I typically drive in the car with no radio on, and no, my phone turned off, just so that I can have some quiet time. So that's an exercise everybody can do today. Like ask yourself like how you can bridge that gap and you know, reconnect with something or someone who brings you joy. Maybe it's a friend that you haven't reached out to in a really long time. So what good thing might get to happen if you sent a text or you picked up the phone? Maybe not a text in case it's misconstrued, right? Because we talked about that earlier, how people read things differently. I worked with a client this morning who had read something a certain way and she was making it mean something other than what the intention was, right? And I said, well, there's like 100 different ways that you can read anything. It all comes down to your perspective and your interpretation. So what if you could read it in several different ways until you sit on something that feels good, right? So yeah, that's my invitation to your listeners and followers today, Dan, is reconnect with joy on a simple, small level, because those big issues require little changes, because the little changes take care of the big issues. It doesn't have to be a big leap. It can be something really small. One tiny adjustment could set you up for success for the whole day.
Well, if nothing else, it could be the beginning of a pivot. And it's funny, it's almost like your intuitive Christine Feedy just hopping on late. Hi, Don and Jenny Maxwell. I like music, but sometimes I love the quiet. I love folding laundry in peace and solitude. It's my form of meditation. And, you know, everybody's got their form and you should stay with it.
Yeah, do whatever works for you. There's no right or wrong way. I mean, something I love to do is like warm clothes out of the dryer. Like throw your pajamas in the tumble dryer for 2 minutes on a chilly day, and get into your pajamas when they're nice and warm. That might seem like such a childish thing to do, but I don't care.
Well, it
brings me joy. It's like something nourishing. It just feels good.
It is childish in the best of ways, because my grandkids come sleep over here at least once, maybe twice a week. And my grandson, who's 10, and we've got Christine here in a second, and he just figured out when he gets his robe out of the dryer how much he loves it. He puts his robe in like every 20 minutes, and he just dry it, getting it warm. So let me bring Christine Feedy on.
Hi,
Thank
Christine.
you so much, Christine. I don't know if you've ever met Jenny.
No,
but
I've been on when I've listened to Jenny, yes. So, and we're not connected, Jenny. So we have to get connected.
To rectify that immediately, if not sooner.
Yes.
Well, it's so great to have Christine. Christine's here almost every day. And I always use Christine as the poster child for being a mother of 3, going after her MBA, having a full-time C-level position, running a house and a family and a husband and dogs. And she's always looking to another challenge. You know, she's never done juggling. So what do you think about the show today? You're stepping on late, or what do you think
Very
about
late.
the group itself? You've grown quite a bit.
What's that? I'm sorry, John.
I said you've grown quite a bit with the show.
Oh, yeah. No, what I like is, and you put this in your comments in the newsletter, that it's giving me more confidence to get on these kinds of platforms, which I never would have considered before, even though I have a sales background and I've presented in all sorts of situations. This terrified me. It really terrified me, just to, I keep bringing up the same thing, but the last time I was on your show, I looked like I was hit by a bus because I just wanted to hop on so bad. And I needed a haircut and a color, and I had no makeup on. And not that I look so fantastic right now, but I felt like I was just in somebody's living room, like everybody says. And that's when you can really just be you and be your unique self, and have people see you for you. And I made a joke it was a joke and it wasn't, that I happened to restream on Facebook, and my mother, who was she means well, she was actually, in her defense, she was an orphan. Okay. Like I can't imagine what that does to somebody, right? I can't imagine how that affects somebody. And she grew up at a time where, foster homes they're not great now, but they were really not great. And she's been through a lot, but she's a very critical person. So she's like, oh my God, you looked awful. Like, why would you do that? You looked like that's going to be out there. You look terrible. Like, put some lipstick on or something. You had no color. And I remember when I had twins, like my mother was like so pissed off that I looked like she always looks. She looks better than me. People think she is a movie star because she's a very attractive woman. I don't know. And, people run up to her all the time. They think she's Jane Fonda or somebody else. Yeah. So she was like horrified. How dare I do what I did? But to me, it's not about the vanity. It's about the sanity, right? You can't, I'd rather I want to look pulled together, especially if I'm doing something for work or whatnot. People judge you on your appearance, right? But at the same time, it's not everything. So,
it's not. And I'm going to jump in here because like that is so juicy. Everything you just said is just so wonderful and honest. And we assume people judge. I used to get this as a fitness instructor. People would worry that other people were looking at them. And I'm like, nobody cares. That's your perception
Although
of other people.
my cousin said that once because the instructor came up to her and asked her if she had a disability afterwards because she was so uncoordinated.
Oh my
So
gosh, that instructor needs a different job. That is not motivating. The whole role of a
it's not. It
fitness
does
instructor
no.
is to make
And then
everybody feel.
there's people like my mother out there too. That again, I don't want to just character assassinate when she's not here to defend herself, but but still, most people don't like. That's what you're trying to say, Jenny.
But the
right?
other
Like,
thing, Christine, is like when it comes to your mom, like you just shared her background.
Yeah,
right?
I agree.
Her roots were very challenging. So if you could attach an intention, it does not excuse the behavior of saying to you, you look a certain way and you should be this or you should be that. What positive intention does your mom have when she shows up that way for you? Knowing what you know about her, what's the positive intention?
I know. She's probably trying to help, right?
Right, I know.
In her way, but it's all backwards, yes. So,
it's true. Yeah. And when we learn to trade judgment for curiosity, it makes way for empathy, right? Again, it doesn't excuse the behavior, but your mom's not on a personal development journey the way like you are or I am or somebody else is. So when we are moving forward, we've got to be prepared to leave people where they're at.
I agree. And you said a lot too, where I have developed and I went through this thing where I hated my mother for, it was immature kind of thing. I mean, maybe some of it is warranted, right? But right now, where I'm at now, I just have so much more empathy for her. I mean, I just do. I really do, despite what I said, like, like making these jokes about it. But she's just a human being and she's a victim of her circumstances in a lot of ways. And when I see people like that, and I don't like to say this about my mother, but it's like, well, sucks to be you. Like, it's got to be horrible to have to live like that, right? It just, and I wish she could change. And I'm just so lucky. I think I was maybe going down that path in some ways because I was a product of my environment, and because of some grace of experience or education, or I don't even know what, right? I don't know how I have some ideas how I landed here, but a lot of it was, I don't know. Sometimes I feel like luck,
Give yourself a little more credit than that. You chose something greater than what you had experienced in your earlier years. You chose to create a new path in a different direction.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah. You got to give yourself a little more credit. This is what we were talking about earlier in the show, is like, sometimes you've got to be your own biggest champion. And, I hear a lot of people say things like, well, that's the way I was brought up. And they lean in on that excuse for their behavior. I don't have any time for that, because I'm like, agreed. It was how you were brought up. And you're choosing to stay on the same track.
I have to share this.
You get to choose. I have like 2 minutes and I got to go down because I have an 11 o'clock. But Christine, please share.
Oh,
and
really quick.
You better connect me like straight away afterwards because I love you.
yeah, I love you back. Believe me, it's a big love fest. So real quick, I was visiting my mom in New York with my kids, and my mom is better to my kids, right? Because that's just how it works, and it's lovely, right? I love seeing that. So, but she's not always so good to me. So I literally used a whole bag of salad because I was creating a salad for myself and my children, and she also loves to comment on my weight because I have gained weight, and so she's like, "You have to eat a salad." Whatever. But I wanted to anyway because I am working on it, right? So anyway, she was so angry that I used a whole bag of salad. I don't know why, right? And she was calling me stupid. And one of my kids said, "We don't call people stupid in my house. That is a bad word. And you can't talk to my mother like that." And I was like floored and proud of her. And it was Sabrina, was another one of my kids. And, I was so proud of her. And my mother was like, "Well, your house has a lot of rules, doesn't it? It has a lot of this." Like whatever she had to say back to her. But like she got it. Like she got, and I was just so glad that she recognized it and she got it. And even on the ride home, she's like, I don't know what got Dana so upset. And I was like, I don't know, maybe just wrong side of the bed kind of. I mean, I don't want to like, again, especially with my kids, go down that road. But they're starting to notice, right? They're getting older. They're
Yeah.
starting to pick up on.
Well, yeah, but there you go again. You need to give yourself a little more credit, Christine, because you are leading by example. And we lead by example everywhere we go, for good or for bad. And you're choosing to lead by example in a positive and empowering way. And how wonderful that your daughter felt empowered enough to stand up and say, this is not acceptable behavior.
I love
That's
it. Yeah.
because of you.
Mm-hmm. Well,
that's because of you.
What's beautiful about this is, I came from a home, you never did good enough, right? If you got a B, why didn't you get an A? You're too smart.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, why can't we just celebrate what we have here? Why can't we build on it versus never enough? And in a lot of ways, they think of you, and it's may not be easily to understand that you are better. You have potential. You have so much in you. And instead of sharing that and saying, this is how you can build on it, this is how far away you are from it, and this is where you could be. And they, I always believe, like I say, with parents, and I've had my challenges too, is they are who they are. And if nothing else, if it wasn't for them, you wouldn't be here. Right. So at the end of the day, that's the top gratitude you can have. I know you got to run.
Yeah, but I'm going to leave you with this, right? Because the truth is, everybody's doing the best they can with what they've got at the time. And that might be very difficult to accept when somebody is not being very kind or thoughtful, or they're not showing up in a way you think they should be, right? But everybody is doing the best they can. So I'm going to leave you with this paradigm because it's very powerful. All parents love their children. All children love their parents. No exceptions. The only variable is whether this love will be demonstrated congruently and beautifully, or become twisted and so severely deformed that it is not recognizable as itself.
Oh my God, that gave me goosebumps.
Yeah, I'll text it to you.
Wow.
And now I got to go. I left you with goosebumps.
Thanks, Jamie. I can't thank you enough. We'll see you in 4 weeks. I know you're going to Dublin to visit the family. So, and Jenny's been here from the beginning and is part of the fabric of what we're doing and brings so much value. And Christine is really coming, is blossoming, because when you express things, it becomes less of a thing, right? The more you share it, the less of it is you keep for yourself. Yeah. And you should feel lucky, because to one last point to what Jenny said, is someone who's bad in whatever way you reflect on it for 10 minutes with you, they're with themselves 24 hours a day with that, right? So when you move on, they don't. They just move on to another situation, another. And, that's really hopefully what we're trying to crack here, is show there's different ways of thinking. There's different ways of acting.
Yeah.
And there's different ways of celebrating yourself. And what you don't want to take is someone's guilt and make it yours. But Jenny, I can't thank you enough. No matter what we do, and the same thing with Christine, and we could stick around, Christine, for a minute or two, is we help people. And that's all we have to do. And that's what makes it all worthwhile, even from the get-go. So any last words, Jenny? I think you left us with a wonderful
I love that paradigm. But thank you for having me. And it's great to meet you, Christine. And I'll see you on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Good luck to everybody. And I hope you have a great couple of weeks.
You too. And enjoy your trip.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So Christine.
Yes.
We had quite a show. I'm so glad you had the opportunity to step in, and we're trying to make this more participatory.
Yeah, I like when there's more than one. I think it's more, I love you, Don, too, but I think it's more engaging, and it's kind of fun.
Well, it's better for everybody, because the worst thing is me by myself, because there's too many dials, too many things going on, and you're always got to say something or be there for somebody.
Yes.
When you have other people, they get a chance to shine, but also they get an opportunity to share their perspective. So when you have one, it's one perspective. Two, you probably get three perspectives, and three, you probably get six different perspectives. And then the audience gets involved. And actually, I sent out like 5 more links today for the show if anybody wants to come on. So I'm hoping you're the model for people who say, well, if Christine can do it, I can do it. If she's comfortable, I can be comfortable. And I think you honor your mother in so many ways by sharing that, right? Because I know what your intention is. And, you're looking for her to get better. You're looking for her one day to show sunshine and happiness for herself.
Yeah, but it took me a while to come, full circle. It took me a minute. And yeah, I honestly believe all those cliches, like she's doing the best she can. And I always felt like I was a great source of disappointment to her. Like, why wasn't I a doctor? Why wasn't I was the smart one? I was the pretty one. I was all these things. I should have been this and that, right? So my sister became a malpractice attorney. My brother is a lieutenant in the fire department. So when she talks about us, she's like, "Oh, Mary does this and Pete does that." And Chris, I don't know, she lives in Boston or something. Like, she doesn't even know what I do or understand it, or like she doesn't even like it just isn't like doesn't fit into a box that she can like. So it's I don't even know. She just doesn't know where to put me. But I am the one that somehow, fell short. And I did. I messed up a lot of times along the way, but then I got my crap together, and that's the main thing, right? Like I always say, I was a late bloomer, but at least I bloomed. Like eventually I got there. And I wouldn't change anything, I really wouldn't, because that makes me who I am right now versus what. And I've changed so much that my own family just sees me still as the black sheep or whatever. So in their defense, right, that's their version of me when I still lived there. And I've lived, in Massachusetts for a while. So people, they have to see the new you a lot to be convinced. It's just the way it is, just the way it goes. And I just realized, oh my God, that I actually have another appointment that I forgot about.
But thank you so much for coming. It's always great to see you. And I'm looking forward to our show coming up this weekend.
Yeah, me too.
So,
and I put something there that I thought you saw.
Yeah,
maybe good if somebody else comes on, because Elizabeth has a basketball game. So.
Not a problem. So great to have you. We made up for those minutes today.
Okay.
And we'll see more of you. And I want to thank everybody who's participated.
I'm going. Adios. Sorry. I got to go.
Nice to see you. And we'll be back tomorrow. Let me share basically who's going to be here. Well, tomorrow's Thursday. It'll be Kelly. Friday will be Christy. Saturday will be Christine. Sunday will be Sarah. So we got a pretty good lineup. I want to thank everybody again. Come back in 23 hours and we'll keep helping each other. So with that, have a lovely day, and let's keep it on. Bye for